Why can you pay with Brunei dollars in Singapore when the two countries don't even share a border? To understand the interchangeability of the currencies, we need to look at the strategic position of the Bruneian Empire in 1500. As we can see, the Sultanate's influence was largely spread across the island of Borneo and parts of the Philippines. The territory of Brunei was concentrated on the coastal areas and can thus be categorized as a telesocracy. As this was the only sea route by which Europeans could reach the Spice Islands, the Moluccas, the Bruneian Empire was able to exploit their location financially. Brunei's monopoly position on the South China Sea led to conflicts with the Spanish kingdom. The Islamic sentiment that spread to the Philippines in the areas controlled by Brunei was in conflict with the Spanish Reconquista policy of spreading Christianity. Spain therefore declared war on Brunei in 1578, which limited the Sultanate's expansionist ambitions. The reduction of the territory to the island of Borneo led to less naval control and therefore a decrease in power and wealth. An uprising by the Vidalia tribe helped James Brooke, a member of the East India Company, to gain political influence in Brunei. He managed to negotiate a peace agreement between the two parties, which put him in a position of political power. In return, the Sultan gave him large territories. Brooke was able to free himself from the Sultan's influence and founded the Kingdom of Sarawak. British expansion efforts in the early 19th century led to the establishment of trading posts on the Strait of Malacca. In 1819, Thomas Stamford Raffles submitted plans to establish another trading post on an island at the southern tip, Singapore. The base was expanded and developed into one of the most important strategic positions in trade with Southeast Asia. As a result, the British Empire attempted to introduce currencies in the territories under its control. Since the 16th century, Brunei has used a currency called pitis, which can be traced back to the Chinese influence of the so-called kwai coins. The coins, made of tin or bronze, existed alongside the Spanish silver dollars, which were widely used due to the intensive Spanish trade. The establishment of the Strait settlements was intended to stop the use of the Spanish dollar by only accepting the Indian rupee as an official means of payment. However, the local population did not support the endeavors of the East India Company and continued to use Spanish and Mexican dollars. In order not to be dependent on the cost-intensive coin exports, the British minted their own silver dollar, the so-called Straits, which was linked to the British trade dollar. This new currency was not only used in the Strait settlements, but also spread to Brunei, Sarawak, and the unfederated Malay state. By 1938, the Strait settlements and the Malay states were merged to form the state of Malaya, and the Straits was replaced by the Malay dollar. In 1959, Singapore's first parliamentary elections took place, in which the candidate of the People's Action Party, Lee Kuan Yew, won. Initially, it looked as if Singapore and Malaysia would unite to form one state, but fearing that Yew's party would gain too much influence, no agreement was reached and Singapore declared itself as an independent southern state in 1965. This separation from Malaysia was a far-reaching decision for Singapore, which now had to act as an almost resource-free country. Brunei had large oil reserves and was not in a position to diversify its economy. This inability led to intensive cooperation between Lee Kuan Yew and the then Sultan Seri Begawan to ensure the competitiveness of both states. But how should they structure their financial system? The three countries agreed to maintain a system based on the Malayan dollar, but with their own currencies. Singapore issued the Singapore dollar, Brunei the Brunei dollar, and Malaysia the ringgit. The Currency Interchangeability Act of 1967 accepted the use of the currencies in each of the countries. Already 6 years later, the strongest economic power involved at the time, Malaysia, withdrew from the agreement. Brunei and Singapore decided to continue to peg their currencies to each other. It turned out that the agreement, combined with Singapore's growth, led to currency stability. Consider the Asian financial crisis of 1997, which was triggered by the Tom Yam Goong in Thailand, where the International Monetary Fund had to borrow billions to save currency such as the baht. This crisis led to a lack of confidence among investors in Asian countries. In Brunei and Singapore, however, the devaluation of the currency was not as serious as in other countries, such as Malaysia. as the joint currency reserves prevented an extreme devaluation. Singapore's rise was based on an export strategy, in which the country opened up to the international investment, and especially poured technical expertise into the country. To this day, the Asian economy is largely regionally bound. In 2009, former Japanese Prime Minister Yukio Hatayama discussed whether a common currency in East and Southeast Asia would minimize vulnerability to crisis. The agreement between Singapore and Brunei has shown how this system could work. I am always interested in topic-specific information. Feel free to write your experience and opinions in the comments.